This is Amud Yomi, Gemara and Berachos, Daf Chof Zayin Amud Beis, and we pick it up with Rav Yirmiyah. The last two words on the second to last line of Chof Zayin Amud Aleph says that the Gemara, we are in the middle of discussing if you're allowed to walk in front of someone davening. The previous Gemara ended off with the story that Rav Yirmiyah davened behind his Rebbe. Says the Gemara of Rav Yirmiyah Chavid Hachi. How is it possible that Rav Yirmiyah Abba, who was a Talmud of Rav, he davened behind Rav? On the last line of Chazayin Amar Aleph, Amar Rav Yudah, Amar Rav Lo Eilam. Al Yismalel Adam Loi Kineged Rabbi in the top of Chazayin Beis. V'lo Yachayri Rabbi. You're not allowed to daven a sot next to your Rebbe, nor behind your Rebbe. V'tanya, and similarly we learned in a Reis of Lazar Omer, Hamis Allah Chayri Rabbi v'Nesid Shalom Rabbi. So davens behind his Rebbe, or he gives shalom to his Rebbe like he would give shalom to a regular person. Says Rashi, Kishar Kol Adam, Shalom Alecha v'Lamar Lo Shalom Alecha Rebbe, V'Amachzer Shalom LeRabbi. Or if he responds to his Rebbe like he responds to a regular person. He argues on the yeshiva, on the opinion of his Rebbe. Or he said something over that he did not hear from his Rebbe. He causes the Shekhinah to leave Klal Yisrael. So how can he tell me that Rav Yirmiyah Rabba davened behind his Rebbe? Answers the Gemara, Shani Rav Yirmiyah Rabba, the Talmud Chaver Have. A line that we find throughout Shas, that Rav Yirmiyah Rabba was a Talmud of Rav, but he at some level was a Chaver. He some level was an equal to Rav. I need to come to Rav Yirmiyah Rabba, Rav. That's what Rav Yirmiyah Rabba said to Rav. Mi badalta. Have you stopped working? Have you accepted upon yourself Shabbos when you're davening now? Shabbos on Friday before it got dark? Amarli in Badon, Rav said yes. Rav Yirmiyah didn't say mi badal mar. He didn't ask him in the mannerism that you would ask a Rebbe. Mi badal mar. Rather, he asked him like a chaver. Which proves the Gemara that Rav Yirmiyah was on the level of a Talmud chaver to his Rebbe Rav. Asks the Gemara, but 1 second, mi badal. But did Rav actually stop working? Shabbos, Erev Shabbos. One time Rebbe davened the Ma'ariv of Shabbos and Erev Shabbos and afterwards he went to the Merchatz. He went to the bathhouse and left and he taught us. He gave us shir. But it wasn't dark yet. So what do we see? We see that Rebbe did the same thing. He davened the Ma'ariv early, and yet he went to the bathhouse afterwards. Amar Rava explains Rava. Rebbe entered into the bathhouse for a steam bath. This was before the Gezeira D'Rabbanan that disallowed a steam bath on Shabbos. Aini, is this true? He allowed him to put some sulfur on a basket to do some sort of basket creation, to color the object, etc. After he davened the Ma'ariv on Erev Shabbos, again proving he did not accept Shabbos. Says that was different. Rav Yirmiyah, Rav Dimi davened the Ma'ariv early by mistake, and that's the reason why he allowed him to do it. As Rashi says, like you will have to Sefer Shabbos and Shas Tefillah Midas. It was a cloudy day. It was really in the middle of the day. Says the Gemara, okay, it was a mistake. If you accept Shabbos by mistake, can you roll it back? But Avidan taught us, one time the sky became thick with clouds. So people thought it was nighttime. But next to the base, they entered into Shul and they davened Ma'ariv. The Ma'ariv for Motzei Shabbos, even though it was on Shabbos. And the clouds dispersed and the sun shone. They asked Rabbi, so what do we see? We see that even when he davened Ma'ariv early, it's called davening. So Rav Dimi Bar Levi davened Ma'ariv on Erev Shabbos, it's called davening. So how can he tell me that he allowed him to do malacha afterwards? Continues the Gemara, shiny tzibur. We don't trouble them. The story that you proved to us was that it was a tzibur that daven Ma'ariv and Motzei Shabbos. So a tzibur, we're not going to make them daven again. But Rav Dimi Bar Levi was a singular person that did such, and therefore it was considered a acceptance of Shabbos, B'Toyis, and therefore it's not a true acceptance, and he's allowed to do work afterwards. Continues the Gemara, 3 lines from the medium-sized lines. Amar Rav Chia bar Avin, Rabbi, nope, Rav, not Rebbe, and not Rav. Rav Sali Shal Shabbos, Berev Shabbos. Rav Yoshia Mitzal Shal Motzei Shabbos, B'Shabbos. Rav Sali Shal Shabbos, Berev Shabbos, Omer. He said, Kiddush al Kais, or never Kiddush al Kais. When you daven Ma'ariv early, are you allowed to make Kiddush early or no? Tashmal proved to you. Damar Nachman Amar Shmuel Saladam Mishalim B'Shabbos Berev Shabbos, Omer Kiddush al Kais. Ve'elchs like Havasei, and this is the halacha, which of course we know this is early Shabbos. Again, there are shailas with early Shabbos, but it definitely works once it's after Plag. Rav Yoshia, Mitzal Shal Motzei Shabbos b'Shabbos. So this is not as common. Rav Yoshia davens Motzei Shabbos on Shabbos. Omer Avdallah Kais, Omer Avdallah Kais. Tashma Demir Shmuel, Saladim Shal Motzei Shabbos Shabbos. V'Omer Havdalah ala Kais. And you can even make Havdalah al Kais before Shabbos ends. Now, it is important to mention that, of course, you cannot make the bracha al Eish. Why? Because it's still Shabbos. So you're making Havdalah early, ala Kais, without an Eish, of course, because Lamaisa, it is still Shabbos. That is where we find in Shulchan Aruch, Reish Tzadi Gimel. Continues the Gemara, Amar Rav Zera, Amar Rav Asi, Amar Rav Elazar, Amar Rav Chanina, Amar Rav, B'tzad Amud Zem Mispal Rav Yishmael Rav Yitzchel Shabbos Rav Shabbos. On this side of the pillar, Rav Yishmael Rav Yosi davened Ma'ariv on Shabbos on Erev Shabbos. Ki also Ula Amar B'tzad Tamar Ava, was side of a date tree. V'lo B'tzad Amud Yo, wasn't next to a pillar. V'lo Rav Yishmael Rav Yosi Ava, Rav Elazar Rav Yosi Ava. V'lo Shel Shabbos Rav Shabbos, Lo Shel Shabbos Rav Shabbos Ava. Proving the story that we just said. 2 versions of what the story was, whether it proved the first point of early Shabbos, whether it proved the second point of early Ma'ariv on Motzei Shabbos. So we continue 10 lines from the very wide lines. First line is B'Shabbos Havu, the 2 dots. Says the Gemara, quoting the Mishnah, Tfilas ha'erev ein lo keva. Ma'ariv has no keva. Mayin la keva, says Gemara, what does that mean? Doesn't mean you let it down the whole night. So it should say, Lisni Tfilas erev kol halayla. It should say you can have a Ma'ariv the whole night. Elo, Mayin la keva. What does it mean? In la keva, there's no fixed time. Command Amar Tilas Rishos. It's according to Command Amar that Ma'ariv is a Rishos. It is not obligatory. Damar Rav Yudah Amar Shmuel, Tilas Avers, Rav Gamliel Amar Chayva, and Rav Yeshua Omer Rishos. Amar Abayo, Helchasa Halacha Kedivrei Omer Chayva V'Rava Amar Halacha Kedivrei Omer Rishos, which we know that is how we paskin, we could say be'etzem, like Rava. However, we already all know the Rishonim speak out that Lamaisa, once Klal Yisrael has accepted upon themselves to daven Ma'ariv, therefore it becomes a chayva. But there's still some little bit of the fact that it's a Rishos, explains the Mishnah Berurah that there will be times for certain kulas, etc. Says the Gemara, Tanu Rabbanan, 4 lines from the wide lines. Ma'isa b'talmid echad. Shabbat lefnei Rav Yeshua, came in front of Rav Yeshua, Amar Lai. Tzilas aviv Rishos chayva, Amar Lai Rishos. Shabbat lefnei Rav Yeshua, Amar Lai. Tzilas aviv Rishos chayva, Amar Lai chayva. Amar Lai Rishos, Amar Lai Rishos. Amar Lai. Hamten Ashich l'su bali treisen the Beis Hamedrash. Went into the bali treisen. The Baal Talmid Chacham entered the Beis Hamedrash and asked Yeshayla. Shesel bali treisen, Amar Shayel v'Shayel. Tzilas aviv Rishos chayva. Amar Rav Gamliel chayva. Amar Rav Gamliel chachamim. Klam yish adam shechalik b'davar. Is anyone that wants to argue? Amar Rav Yeshua laughed. Yeshua said no. Amar Rav Gamliel said to Rav Yeshua, "V'alo mishim chaver Rishos." I hear that you, Rav Yeshua, hold it to Rishos. Amar Rav Gamliel said to Rav Yeshua, "Yeshua, amoid al raglecha v'yidu b'cha. Get up, testify what you hold." Amar Rav Yeshua al raglev Amar el moli ani chai v'hu meis. If I was alive and the one that asked the question was no longer alive, then I could deny. And therefore, says Rav Yeshua, it's true. I did indeed hold that it was Irishos. Rav Gamliel was continuing shir. Rabbi Shua made al raglov. Acherinu kolam till all the people weren't happy. V'amru lachutzpis atorgumin amoid, and they said to chutzpis atorgumin, stop. V'amoid, and he stopped. They told him to stop. They told him to stop. Now, what's going on over here? What's going on is that the Rav Yeshua was told to stand, and he was never told to sit back down. So Rav Gamliel continued cheer, and Rav Yeshua is just still standing there. Amru, says the Gemara, the story continues. Amru, they said, I'd come in Tzar ben Ezel. How long is Rav Gamliel going to cause Rav Yeshua Tzar? Rosh Hashanah, Ishtaket Tzayir, Rosh Hashanah calls him Tzar. B'Machayir is the Rav Sadik Tzayir. Hachanami Tzayir Tov and Abrei. They said, that's it. We got to get rid of Rav Gamliel. Says the Gemara, Ma noikim la. But who should we put in charge instead of Rav Gamliel? Nukmil Rav Yeshua. Should we appoint Rav Yeshua? That can't be. Baal Maisa, he's the one involved in the story. Nukmil Rav Akiva. That can't be. Damanish leidel es chosavais. Doesn't have chosavais. Ela nukmil Rav Lazav and Azariah. Do Chacham. Do Asher. Siri la Ezra needs a 10th generation from Ezra. Says the Gemara. Hu Chacham. Di Makshale Mefarik. If he has any cash, he'll answer. He's wealthy. If he has to deal with the Caesar, he'll be able to deal with the Caesar. Which means he has chos and they won't be able to punish him. And the story concludes, they came, they told her husband Azariah, can you become Rosh Hashiva? Go else my house. When he asked his wife, and she said to him, as we turn over to the Tabach, maybe one day they're going to remove you. It's nice they want you today's Rosh Hashiva. Maybe one day they're going to take you down. Amar La, Rav ben Azariah tells his wife, let a person use a precious glass cup one day, and the next day will break. At least today you have it. Amar Le, she says, but you have no white hairs. So how can you be the Rosh Hashiva? That day, Rav Elazar ben Azariah was only 18 years old. 18 rows of hair in his beard turned white. He only looked like it wasn't actually. We'll stop over here. We'll pick it up with the fascinating story of what happened if Elazar ben Azariah became Rosh Hashiva in the next Amud tomorrow. B'siyata Dishmaya.